Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast. I'm Kimberly Dondero, Digital Content Manager, and in this week's Weekend Essay Podcast, we have reporter Jean-Baptiste Andrieux asking, is the price of freedom expensive? Take it away, JB.
I made an anecdotal yet interesting observation in January. To give you some context, I usually pay my bills at different times over a month. Typically, I would pay my utility bill mid-month, my rent around the 20th, and my council tax at the end of the month. However, as January has been particularly busy for me, and also because I forgot to set reminders in my personal calendar, I ended up paying all my monthly bills in the same evening. Seeing all this money flowing out of my bank account really broke my heart. After coming back to my senses and wiping away my tears, I posed myself this question. Would life be easier from a financial perspective if I could pass on half of at least some of these bills to someone? In other words, is life more expensive for singles? The answer was not immediately obvious to me. Yes, you might get to share the bills if you have a partner. But on the other hand, you spare yourself all the unnecessary spending activities you would have to do with a partner. I guess the quickest way to find out the definitive answer was to ask Google, which leads me to this research from Hargreaves Lansdown. According to this research, the price of freedom is £860 per month, as well as 2/3 of your financial resilience. On the top of that, singles are less likely to have enough cash left over at the end of the month to be considered resilient, and less likely to be on track for a moderate income in retirement. Another finding of this research is that 53% of those living alone have either poor or very poor resilience. It compares to 27% of couples with children and 16% of couples without children. Those figures resonate with me. I haven't been saving much money since I've been living on my own. Call me Mr. Picky, but I can't tolerate living in a shared accommodation. I gave it a try when I moved to London, but I just do not like sharing my living space with people I cannot choose. I would probably make a bad financial advisor, but I preferred making the present acceptable before securing the future. But the additional financial burdens for singles go beyond bills. It also applies to food shopping, for instance. Hargreaves Lansdown stated, "You might think there are other areas where you only use half as much, so it should cost half the price, but that's not how it works. Food shopping, for example, means buying smaller packs which you usually pay proportionally more for, or buying standard sizes and risking wastage. Then there are the special deals for couples and the single supplements, which mean you can end up spending more for everything from streaming services to hotel rooms and gym memberships." Actually, I had already spotted these advantages for singles when I studied for the IMC in the UK taxation chapter, to be precise. The manual taught about the so-called bed and breakfast strategy that was used to circumnavigate the capital gain tax. If I understood it well, the purpose was to sell assets in excess of the allowance on the last day of the tax year and to repurchase them the next morning, with the assumption the market would not move too much within this short period. However, a 30-day rule to repurchase shares was introduced, which rendered this strategy unusable. Yet there is another strategy sharing similar mechanics with the bed and breakfast one, which has the benefit of still being valid up to these days. Bed and spouse. Aberdeen gives the following definition for this strategy. This is where the shares are sold by an individual and bought back in the name of the spouse or partner. The disposal of shares crystallizes a gain and allows the individual to make use of the capital gain tax allowance. Of course, to buy back the shares, this requires a gift of the disposal proceeds to the spouse partner. There's no need to wait 30 days to avoid share matching rules. Alternatively, if there are gains in excess of the capital gain tax allowance, some of the shares can be gifted to a spouse or civil partner under the spousal exemption to benefit from the capital gain tax allowance. There's no disposal when the shares are gifted, and the spouse acquires the asset at the original base cost. Obviously, this strategy isn't practical if you are single, and capital gain tax is not the only area where the taxman sanctions singles. Hargreaves Lansdowne states, even the tax system seems stacked against you. There are specific tax breaks for people who are married or in civil partnerships, from the marriage allowance to the fact there is no inheritance tax on assets passed between spouses after death, or capital gains tax on assets passed while you're alive. The price of freedom is quite high.
Thanks, JB, for another great weekend essay. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast from. You can also keep up to date with all new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine, so make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.